The title is not clickbait. This is indeed a game that makes moving dots interesting. Fascinating, even. And it's not just that they move, it's watching them move. You don't even control the dots. Well, you control a little bit of them to an extent, but it's not direct control. If you're fascinated by this, don't be turned off by the appearance of a racetrack if you're not a motorsport fan. Because so many people in the comments of the last video were saying that they don't even watch F1 or they don't even watch racing in general, but they really enjoyed this game. I've got people, even in real life, who aren't usually gaming video watchers, who have said they've enjoyed watching this series. So I'm hoping that today, if you are new here, hi, I can really hook you into this game, or at least the concept of the moving dots. Give me a chance. And if you're back from a previous video, welcome back. If you've not already caught up on the whole series and you decide that you do like the moving dots and you want to go back and watch the whole thing, the playlist for this series will be linked in the description, as it always is. Little update, all of your ridiculous support over the last couple videos has made it possible to apply for YouTube partnership, which also allows me to put more time into making content like this or like F1 Manager, because that's going to be a series that we start at some point. But also there will be non-racing content because I am a variety creator. I don't want to be pigeonholed as just a motorsport manager, racing manager type creator. I just really like this game and I want to keep making videos about this game and I want to keep playing this game. And honestly, I want you to keep watching this game. It's just so fun. Like, it's just so fun, I think, to watch as well as play. Again, kudos to the devs for making such a simple, in a good way, and approachable motorsport manager game. So, without further ado, let's get into our career. We are Knight F1 team, run by the parent company Like and Subscribe, which was of course founded by Brendan Like and Corey Subscribe in 1970. They have in fact also, after the results of the last race, where we did really well, considering where we should be, which I'll explain in a moment, they have actually doubled down on their investment into the team, and I can announce that they're opening a headquarters in Memphis, Tennessee. If you live near Memphis, go ask them. If you live near Memphis in 1970, then firstly, I don't know how you're getting YouTube, but hi. Secondly, go ask them for a factory tour. I'm sure they'd love to give you one. If you are not one that likes spoilers and you like the idea of this game already, and you're going to want to watch this video, but you don't want to get the series spoiled for you, check out episodes 1 and 2. They will be linked in the description in the top right with a card, unless you're a TV viewer. I'm sorry, that's nothing I can do about that. YouTube just doesn't show cards to TV viewers, but it will be up there. One thing I noticed from the last video, is that a lot of people shared my gripes about the use of the term sandwich in the F1 broadcast. And I'm really glad to hear I'm not alone, because I thought I was a little bit old man shouts at cloud with the sandwich thing. But then like at least 2 or 3 other people have commented going, oh my God, I hate that. I'm going to go to the standings now. So if you've not seen episode 1 or 2 and you don't want to get it spoiled and you haven't already looked at where we are in the standings because it's right there. Here it is. This is a perfect example with us in the standings, in that right here is a sandwich. 2 of 1, so both of our drivers, and there's another driver in the middle. In F1, because we are Team Knight, they would refer to it as a Knight sandwich. This is wrong. I know I'm saying it again. If you saw episode 2, I'm saying it again because it bears repeating, okay? It's not a Knight sandwich. We don't name sandwiches based after the bread in most cases. It would be the Knight cars making a hemlock sandwich. So thank you for those of you that vindicated my thoughts on this. If you have any other F1 commentary gripes that you usually hear during the broadcast and little things like that you're like, technically that's not correct, feel free to point them out in the comments. Let me know. I'd be interested to hear all these other little nitpicks for people like me. But also thank you for all the compliments on the race commentary as well. But a lot of people have said they really enjoy the commentary. And I love doing it, honestly. If F1 called me up tomorrow and said, we want you to cast a free practice session, I would go. I'd go in a heartbeat. So if anybody knows any contacts at F1, get them in touch with me. Call up F1 TV and be like, yo, I got a guy for you. I mean, I joke, right? But in the last video, I talked about if there's an audio engineer in the comments, let me know about the mic. And there was actually an audio engineer. You can't write this sometimes. You just can't write it. Anyway, a little recap of what happened in our last episode. We went to Mutton Chop, which is Silverstone. It was wet all weekend. And so we had a bit of a tumultuous practice session. It got wet and then it kind of started to dry up again and then it got wet again. Someone else crashed while we were out there trying to set laps. And that led to us not getting a time in. And so we had to settle for somewhere towards the back of the grid where I think our pace in quali, we'd have done so much better than what we did. From the start of the race, I was concerned as well because our race starts, the two that we had in Retrocito, the race start and the red flag, were not good. And so as we lined up on the grid, I was a little concerned. And sure enough, off the line, we start falling down the order. But then during that first lap, it becomes very apparent that we might just be wet weather masters. The Night F1 team might just be strong in the wet. And so we spent most of the race fighting just to get into or keep 9th and 10th. We also benefited from a full course yellow timed at the right time again. So we got another cheap stop in, but this time for both drivers. We had another red flag towards the end. So in both of the races so far, we've had a full course yellow and a red flag 5 to 10 laps from the end that threatens our position. Because we were 9th and 10th, we had a big gap behind us. I thought, oh no, this is going to be it. This is our potential for our first points of the season going out the window. But no, we managed to hold on and we came home in 9th and 10th. It was delightful. Also, Rodriguez complained about his car like being in a bad condition moments after leaving the pits. I have no words for that. I have absolutely no words for it. But it's fine. At least we know now that reliability might become a thing. So, you know, part reliability could come into play because performance starts to drop over the course of the race. Today, we are about to embark on one of the most famous Grand Prix of the 1970s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s to today. The Circuit de Casino, as this is called here. It's the Monaco Grand Prix. Monte Carlo, the beautiful bay of yachts, including Kimi Räikkönen's yacht in the 2000s. We've got sports cars. We've got a lot of beauty to be appreciated on this circuit. Not only is it the crown jewel of this season, meaning that we get +2 sponsor bonus payouts, and it is always on the calendar, but also it is a narrow track, which is going to add some complexity. Like Retrocito, it's going to be difficult to overtake, so we're going to have to try and put in a really good performance in quali if we can. But also it's bumpy. So the crash chance not only gets an additional chance from being narrow, but also an additional chance from being bumpy. So there's a 40% extra chance of crashing at this Grand Prix. Now, I mentioned being a wet weather master. We're not going to get another wet Grand Prix until Brazil, which is race 6. So we're going to have to rely on our pure pace alone to get us through this. Before we go into the race, the first thing I want to do is check out our garage again, because we have $7 now. Which, I don't know if you know much about motorsport, $7 will get you far, all right? People will look at you like you're a monarch, okay? $7 makes us rich in this economy. So, we have to decide now, do we want to give another upgrade to one of our cars? For example, Carlos Rodriguez's 47% engine. Or do we embark on buying a new part? Engine performance here is going to be -25%. But until we get to Brazil, where it's, again, less engine, more chassis. So I think if we're going to develop a new part, it's going to have to be chassis based. Engine performance comes in towards the end. So maybe if we're planning on doing something after, I mean, to be fair, chassis is only one of these, but engine performance only comes in at the end. So, I mean, maybe towards the end we'd make an engine, but right now I think chassis might be the way to go, because additionally, like I said last time, chassis gives us overall speed as well. So I said I'd be fair to the drivers, and they're only a point apart in the standings. So despite the fact that Von Heim has had the edge a little bit over the course of the first 2 races, I'm not going to make him a #1 driver. Not until there's a clear divide in the season performance between these two. What we want to look at is potentially a new chassis to go to Carlos Rodriguez. Because if we build a new chassis, the only problem we're going to have here is that it's more than likely going to be less reliability on the chassis. And Carlos Rodriguez has already been complaining about the state of his car before. So You know, I mean, maybe we just upgrade the chassis for now. Because with $7, we could actually upgrade both of their chassis. This is the dilemma we find ourselves in. I did say I would go for risks during the season, you know, but I also didn't expect to be where we are, competitive right now. So interesting question, actually. Our engineer, Anita Banal, has plus 20 bonus on chassis performance. Does that apply to upgrades? It doesn't. So I think it might be worth buying a new chassis. You know what? As I've said before, I'm nothing if not a gambler, and this season is going to be all about taking risks because at this point, we're already way above our projected finishing position. We might as well go for broke. Let's build a new chassis. You hear the nuts and bolts screw into position. The reliability is not bad either. We have lost 4%, but it's not terrible. Compared to what it could have been down at 30%, I'll take that. That now puts Rodriguez's car ever so slightly above Von Heim. I know Von Heim won't necessarily be happy about it, but he got the engine upgrade. Carlos Rodriguez gets the new chassis. This, you know, we're playing fair. We're not playing favorites. And the average on reliability between them is only 3%. That's all we need to do in the garage. So we're going to get right on with this. I wanted to check something real quick. Our biggest competitors in the constructor standings right now are Pope and Hemlock. If you look at Wayland, Chapman, Wayland and Chapman are fighting for P3 in the constructors this year. I've said it in every episode and I'll say it again. Ferrari are going to run away with this. Maybe LeBron will keep up with them. LeBron James. Maybe LeBron will keep up with them. But it's looking like a Ferrari season. And Levi Mack leads the way on points. The only reason Moretti's down here in 5th is because he DNF'd in the first event. Otherwise, he'd probably be on twice the points he's on. And I fully expect him to be at least P4, P3, maybe even P2 by the end of this event, unless he DNFs again or something goes dramatically wrong in their strategy late on. Because they are just, the Etzelinis are just they're a rocket ship. They're an absolute rocket ship. It's crazy. We have had one death during the season as well already. RIP Rodney Campbell. It bears repeating. But our biggest competitors right now are Pope and Hemlock. So we're fighting for P5 in the constructors because outside of that, I don't think, at least not for the foreseeable, I don't think P4 is a chance, but P5 is the goal if we can hold out. So, I mean, Bancroft, Vernier, and April don't have any points yet anyway, so in theory, they wouldn't be a threat. But until he died, Rodney Campbell was in P8 for race 1, so maybe they are going to be a threat. But if you look in the standings, those 3 teams are down here. It's mainly those teams we want to look out for. So essentially, Chapman or Lotus, Wayland or Tyrrell, and the 2 big teams, we don't need to care about them as much. Every other team we should be trying to beat during this event. So without further ado, let us go to the bright sunny bay of Monte Carlo. And it is indeed bright and sunny as we arrive. A reminder of the traits of this track. It is bumpy, it is narrow, and it is the crown jewel. We're going to make more money from this event. So big upgrade potentially next episode. Stick around. But also very high crash chance. Less chance of overtaking. I mean, it's Monaco, right? And less engine performance. So if you're saying, Kush, I came here for dots. You've not shown me any dots yet. May I introduce the 1970s F1 grid of dots? Here they are in all their glory, in both the timing sheet and on track. But before we do any tuning or any setup direction for our drivers, we send them out on softs. It's all sunny, no need for the intermediates or wets. And when they come back after a lap, we will start to tune them. Now, for now, we're just going to introduce you to the dots. This is not where the dots moving gets really exciting or fascinating, although it is definitely a competitive session because we're going to have to do quali. Because practice and quali in this game, if you're a motorsport fan, you'll know why this is different. They are the same thing. This is a practice and quali session. We tune up the cars or the dots. So we tweak our dots and then we send them out to move around the line one time around or 3 times around because you do an out lap, a timed lap and an in lap. And then we bring them back. We tweak our dots a little bit and then we send the dots out again. So that's how this session's going to work. We're going to go for a lap around the Monte Carlo circuit on Von Heim, straight into Sandoval with some great speed. As we come through the first section, it becomes evident how twisty, turny, and tight this track really is. This is really a test of strength and a test of guts for these drivers as they come round the second sector, out of the tunnel to a sharp chicane or two. They have the Bay of Monte Carlo on their left, but they have the walls that separate them from it on their minds, because this is the most dangerous track of the year, I'm sure. As they bring it home through the third sector, it's all green, which means personal bests, not purple, which would be best of anybody, but we're only 2 seconds off the McLarens. Now, the Ferraris, I'm fascinated by how Mack has ended up down in 11th, but this is already looking like good pace from us in the dry as well. Someone got held up or something, or just did really bad in the tuning direction already. Like, Woods is down there as well. Maldonado's down there. I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely not looking so good. Few of them are out of position right now. So Mack is definitely out of position. Maldonado's out of position, and Woods is probably out of position. We are 11th and 12th right now. Fonseca and Acosta putting in some banging laps. We are once again 5 seconds to 6 seconds away from the leaders, which is about where we've been so far. But it means that the Ferraris aren't necessarily out-developing us, which is really inspiring. Also, after that new chassis, Rodriguez is coming home 1/10 ahead of Von Heim, which is new for Rodriguez. Honestly, Von Heim has had the edge in quali up until now. This seems to have leveled them out a little bit, and it's going to give them an equal chance. Let's move to the tuning. How this works is that we choose which part we want to tune. We get to choose between one of these value ranges, and then it will apply a random number in that range. It will cost a certain number of points from the engineer on the left. So as you'll see here, our engineer has the ability to spend 15 out of 20 possible points during each tuning. And we could, for example, spend 1 tuning point to get a bonus of 0 to 2 on the engines. That could be nothing. But with a bit of maths, you'll realize that spending 2 to get 2 to 4 is better than spending 2 to get 0 to 4 by timesing this by 2. And as such, especially with the engine having reduced performance on this track by 25%, engine is not where we're going to be wanting to look for this. Chassis is overall speed, but it's the steering, it's the braking and the cornering on such a slow track that we're going to, I think, want to focus on. I think we're going to be wanting to do steering most of all. So that's where my current focus is going to be for the first run, just to see where it puts us. And if things don't start to improve, I will also bring the chassis into play. So right now, timesing that by 1.5 to get from 2 to 3 points, we end up with 3 to 6, which is going to be more valuable. This times by 1.25 is 1.25 to about 9. So 2 to 10 is better. This times by 2.5 is 2.5 to 10. So 2 to 20 is potentially better. It actually wasn't in the end because we got plus 10. We're not always the most lucky on the tuning, but this is it. We just got to find where that setup direction is. It's 1970. We don't have advanced computers telling us exactly what the front wing angle needs to be. It's just a couple of guys and gals just getting their spanners out, turning some nuts and bolts and going, oh, that'll do. Get out there, see if it's faster. So all we're doing now is making it easier for Von Heim to turn their car as they drive around the track. Next up, we got 2 to 6 is better, another 1 to 3, and then a 2 to 4 to finish it off. And we're about halfway to a golden tune. Now, I haven't explained this little multicolor madness going on at the end of the bar here as of yet in this episode. Very quickly, if you hit 65 points right out of here, I think it's 60 to 65 is the range. If you land in the gold, you've done it. You've mastered the car's setup in that category, for example, steering, and you have found the illustrious golden tune. However, if you decide to channel your inner Kenny Loggins on a highway to the danger zone and you've gone over the window, you will be ending up in the red, and that will not only overtune the car, but it will then cost you. And so your car will then end up taking a hit of performance and you'll have to retune it again. So it's a bit of a gamble. If you like games like Balatro, this is for you. You get a little bit of gambling in here right before you get into the strategy side. So now that we've finished tuning them up, we strap a fresh set of softs on them and we send out Von Heim. We leave it a couple seconds to give them a space and then we start tuning Rodriguez. Same deal, I want to go for steering here as well and see if this is going to be the right direction. I feel like it will be. 3 to 18, that has to be better. Yes, we got the 18. All right, good. The tuning on the steering, we're learning quickly. 1 to 19. Oh, the 18. Rodriguez is in Wonderland right now with not only a new chassis, but some amazing steering. The setup is heading in Rodriguez's direction this weekend. I'm calling it. Let's look at the track as a whole. So you get to see him go around it and see what kind of twists and turns they have to do. And here it is. We're going to go for the second lap timed around the Monte Carlo circuit. 8th and 9th is a solid position for us to be in if we finish here, but you can just never tell. I mean, 2/10 takes Rodriguez down as far as 12th. So that middle 5 right there. And by the way, only the top 10 get points. Schaub, for the second weekend running, has binned it. That is Schaub right there in the Pope. Stuck at the side of the road in the tunnel. It's dark in there. There's a corner. You'd think drivers can master the corners, but when it's dark, they're not used to it as much. And that can be a nightmare of a position to be in. He's just lost it coming out of that tunnel. It's a high-speed corner. It's in the dark. You know, one moment of hesitation or lack of self-confidence, you become unsure of yourself, or you can become a feature of the wall, as Schaub has done. We obviously primarily hope that Schaub is okay, rather than the fact that it's affecting our quali session, because the last thing we want is a second fatality for the season. So we just hope that Schaub's doing okay. Time to send them back out now that the track is green. There's a lot of traffic they're coming into here. Oh, Rodriguez is in there, boxed in between Viaba and Maldonado, both of whom are on flying laps, and yet Rodriguez manages to come out in front of them, just trying to get that track position. But you got to be careful. The stewards will look at that. If he was impeding during a flying lap for both of them. 12th is Viaba. Viaba did have a slower mid-sector. So did Maldonado. The stewards are going to be looking at that. They're going to be consulting the 1970s regs. Was there a hold-up? But both of our drivers seem to have improved as Von Heim pops back in at 8th position and Rodriguez makes it line astern night cars in the top 10 as they come in behind in 9th. Once again, they found themselves a 10th down on Von Heim. They were a 10th up with that new chassis, but a little bit of a lack of focus. Maybe just seeing how Schaub crashed in the tunnel had got a picture into their mind, right? You know, this is a dangerous sport. The drivers are fully aware of that. Someone's already died this year. Sometimes pushing right on that edge can have dire and fatal consequences. And so it makes them just leave a little bit on the table, you know? They're not 100% wanting to push on the limit for the whole lap. And I get it. I understand it. I really do. I couldn't chastise my drivers for not pushing it over the top, right? I mean, look at Lando in Jeddah. Lando in Jeddah in Q3 pushed it over the top and ended up in a wall, potentially cost him the win for that weekend. So, you know what I mean? It's and Tom, if you're watching, that Shoei bet is looking great for me right now, just FYI. And Rodriguez, what are we doing for you, sir? Double that would be 4 to 10, so we're going to go over the 2 to 5. 3 times that is 3 to 9. I'm going to go 4 to 6. Okay, the 5 is not bad. 1.5 times this is 1.5 to 6, which means 2 to 9 is better. And there's the golden tune. Rodriguez has a golden tune on steering with points to spare. And because there's a detriment to the engine performance for this weekend at minus 25%, each of the points we add to this will be only 75% effective. So my second priority for both of these drivers is going to be chassis, which means that, you know, acceleration, it could be useful out of these corners, but, you know, the 1970s cars weren't exactly V10s, let's be honest. So, you know, they're going to take longer to accelerate and the top speed they achieve might not be as much, but I feel like it's going to be more important to have overall speed around this track. The counterpoint to that, because I have to play devil's advocate to my own assertions, if we can't overtake, if we get stuck in a train, it's going to be more about the acceleration and getting out of corners quicker to try and overtake than it would be about having total speed. But then again, you look at it and go, okay, well, if you've got higher total speed, if you're going to pass anywhere, which is unlikely around Monaco, you're going to be able to pass in all of those places with a better total speed overall. So we're definitely going chassis. Rodriguez, I'm hoping for a big lap from you on this one. We're going to follow Rodriguez around the Monte Carlo circuit on the next lap. This game operates at about 5 times real-time speed, if you look at how the seconds are counting down. So it's not like I can commentate in real time. So it takes me a minute sometimes to be able to catch everything happening on a lap. But we are going to follow Rodriguez around their next flying lap. A frightful reminder, that car wreckage, or at least where the scuffs are on the Aramco barrier, that this sport can be fatal. But hopefully they're able to cast that aside as they now come out of La Sardine. They come down the start-finish straight and immediately into Starlet, going through Flambeur in the tight, twisty Bellevue, trying to come down towards the hardest corner on the calendar, potentially. The Princess's Hairpin. There doesn't need to be an apostrophe S on that. Just an apostrophe would do, just FYI. But they're coming out of the corner now. Brown Brigadier through the wind tunnel and into the tight, twisty L'Ancienne Chicane. L'Ancienne Chicane? Past the Mega Yacht Marina and into the final big double corner of the lap, into a couple more twisty turns to put the hammer down and on the power as we come out faster than before, only 4.5 seconds off the lead cars, which is currently the McLarens, by the way. Oh, no, we're 6.5 down and it's Ferrari again. Ignore me. Now we're split. And that 0.3 that Von Heim is down could be the difference between a double points and not. We'll have to find that out as we go through. The lap only takes about 2 minutes, which I think means it's going to take about 2.5 to 3 minutes to do the out lap. So at 3 minutes left, I'm going to send them both out because doing 2 minutes times 3 on all of these would bring us back, if we do an out lap, another flying lap and an in lap, would bring us in with a minute to go. So we're only going to have time for one more tune. Now, the reason I want to wait until the end, and it's a risk because if a yellow flag happens, full course yellows, we won't get to set another time. But the reason I want to leave it to the end is we're already in a good position, so we can afford for things to stay as they are. But if we can hit something big when the track grip is at its maximum, and I say maximum, relatively speaking, track grip is this top bar here, this top little slant. It's how much the tires are gripping the road. And as you'll see, it gets more and more over the session because the more and more rubber is laid down from the cars that set times. So the difference between now, for example, and if you watch this little bar here go up, it starts to tick up. It's about another 50%, maybe a little bit less. But it's just that edge that might just give us that extra tenth to creep 2 cars into the top 10. We're still 4 tenths off the Waylands and everything above that. So again, 5th is our aim. 9th and 10th is where our bread and butter is going to be for points this season. And then, if we are 9th and 10th, we're in position for if something goes terribly wrong up front and we can capitalize on it. We want to be those guys that are there, opportunistic, ready to capitalize on the smallest collision. Fonseca's the one on a flyer. That's number 12. So they're going to come around and we're going to see if they can get 2 tenths. Because if they can, they're going to go in front of Von Heim. They cross the line in 8th place. A marker dropped down by Vernier right now. That is very interesting. Vernier have responded to the rumors about a big night part upgrade coming to this race and have said, oh yeah, well, we can still set fast times. That is going to be a problem for us. We're going to have to be fighting against the Verniers this year, I think. And so oh shit, I didn't, oh no, I was busy commentating. I really hope we don't end up missing out on another run because we don't have enough time. Oh God, it's going to be 24 seconds. Okay, we need to give them the golden tune. There it is. 2 minutes 35 on the clock as both night cars leave the pits. They have left it right until the end. As long as we cross that finish line to start our flying lap before the top clock hits 0, it's a I've started so I'll finish situation and we will be allowed to finish our lap. With just 1 minute 15 left on the clock, it's getting close. 1 minute. Are they going to make it? They are going to make it. Look at this. These boys have absolutely jetted around the track. And they start their flyers. Here we go. Keep an eye on the sector times here for Rodriguez and Von Heim. They need to be going green in all 3. Von Heim and Rodriguez both start off well. As the climb begins again, it's under pressure here. They've been put in. It's a 1-lap wonder to get them out of what would be a kind of disappointing 16th and 17th. Von Heim goes green, so does Rodriguez. They're both setting personal bests all across the timesheet. The question is, will they improve in position as well as time? They come across the line. Von Heim goes 9th, Rodriguez 8th, pushing Von Heim down to 10th, but also going ahead of Viaba. And that is a stellar finishing effort from the boys. Under pressure, they delivered. Rodriguez only 400ths ahead of Von Heim, despite the new chassis and the better tuning. I know I've got a couple of commenters that are Team Rodriguez. I think you'll find Von Heim is currently in better form as a driver. If they were in the same car, I think you'd find Von Heim would be setting better times. But 8th and 10th on the grid is solid. So as long as Rodriguez can stay in the points, or Von Heim, but with Rodriguez being in 8th, and Von Heim being literally in 10th, which is the lowest point scoring position, I don't know how likely it is. I have reiterated to the race engineers that they need to tell their drivers to try and improve their race starts. And, their trainers have been working with them on reaction time stuff. So hopefully they're going to deliver this for us, but we will see. Our closest competitors, remember, are Hemlock in the championship, and it's Pope that we're trying to catch, which is Kukkonen and Schaub. Now, they are way down, which is great for us. Hemlock, Viaba's in the mix, causing us problems. But Hussler, again, just not able to get the job done. honestly, they're down 7.5 off the pace. I mean, everybody's a couple seconds off the pace, but at least off us, 2 seconds down on their teammate. 2.5 almost. That is not where you want to be. As I've said in both previous episodes, in real life, you want to be within 2 to 3 tenths. It may have been different in the 70s, but look at our drivers. Like half a tenth away from each other. And I mean, look at this. Look at this section here. It doesn't tell me the gap for, oh, because it's 0. So 1/10, just over, separates 8th from 12th, which is, by the way, 4 points or 0. And considering our entire team score for the first 2 races has been 3 total, it just shows you how close this midfield really is. You know, Bregman, Maldonado, and Holgerson going to be fighting over 5th place probably, while the top 2 teams just run away with it. And McLaren on pole, by the way, is a spicy meatball for this one. That's going to be a story to watch. But let's go to our race strategy. No weather, no rain has been forecast for this race. There is weather. There is still a climate. The Earth has not destroyed itself yet. This is still 1970. But there is no rain predicted. None of the radars, which I think in the 70s was a guy sticking his hand out the pits rather than any sort of computer. No radars are suggesting rain is going to be on the horizon. Steiner down in 11th has that unshakable trait. So while they're lower than 10th, they will be just +1 overall. So they're going to be someone to watch out for coming through. As will Acosta, which is the only ones I think we need to worry about. 8th and 10th off the grid for the Night Boys. Really, really good. We're not aiming to get any higher than 8th unless there's some tasty afters ahead. You know, like a crash or some sort of battling that slows them down. We're a midfield team. That's what we're fighting to be. We put our hat into the ring as being a midfield team last episode. So this episode, we're looking to establish that midfield team position. And with 2 grid spots like 8th and 10th, I'm optimistic about it. 71 laps around the Monte Carlo circuit, which for the cars will feel a lot like a Scale Electric, or for American viewers, slot cars, because it's going to be tight. It's going to be boxed in. The track is narrow, it's walls on both sides, it's bumpy, and it's just the most unforgiving track. So you've really got to be locked in mentally around this circuit. In terms of strategy, like I said before, a very quick one about how this works. You don't need to know a lot about F1 strategy. Let me explain why. It's not wet today, there's no rain, so we can ignore the IW, which in this case could stand for I wish there was rain, because we are good in the wet. But instead, we're SMH because we're here in the dry. So soft tires are the quickest. So you'll see at their maximum life on lap 1, they have a performance of 1,003, but they will only last until the very carcass, 23 laps. And as you see, on the way down, it's a fairly linear drop of about a point of performance per lap. You go to the hards, however, they're more durable. They're not as fast because they start at 995 and they go all the way down to 973. So it's a much more gradual fall off, but with lower overall performance. So the soft tires are fast, but fairly weak, and they won't last you long. Hard is they're going to go all night, but they're not going to be very fast or performant. Let's put it that way. So that's going to be it. There's going to be no team orders. They're both going to be allowed to race, even though they're only 2 positions apart. I've said this in each episode, and I've said it in fact earlier in this episode, so I don't need to say it again, but I will. There's not going to be any team orders until we have a very clear idea of who the better driver is in the championship, and they're still too close, right? Von Heim leads by a point, but Rodriguez is currently 2 places ahead. So off the start, we're going to want to burn some fuel. Like I always say, don't worry about the fact that the fuel is not going to make us to the end, because that's only based on if you were going to go hard on the fuel burn for the entire race. Likelihood is there'll be something that slows us down, allows us to drop the fuel to very minimal, and we'll switch to normal at some point. But off the start, we want to try and minimize that position loss, or rather offset the problems that our drivers have in start performance. So we're going to have those both on burn. In terms of tire strategy, we're going to figure that out, but we are going to be burning off the line. We are going to be pushing hard off the line. In terms of a tire strat, the way I like to look at it is when you get about 25% left is when you want to pit, right? That's as a general guideline. I don't know if that's good strategically. I'm not someone that min-maxes games a lot, so I will go with what I think is right for the setting. So in F1 terms, you don't want to be going lower than 25% on your tires. So even though the hards on a normal stint would last us 46 laps, 25% of that is See, 23, 12, 11 and a half. Yeah, 11 and a half laps. So if we take 11 and a half off that, that would last us about 34, 35 laps, which would take us halfway. So it might be, I don't know if you have to use 2 different sets of compounds, but I think this is going to be a hard, soft, soft, probably. We're going to do soft, hard, soft as our planned strategy. And then we're going to react to whatever safety cars and things come up. That would make the most sense to me. And if we conserve on the hards, I mean, we could go for 45 laps. Don't tempt me with the one stop. Don't tempt me with the one stop. I've written myself down a little matrix of lap numbers for how this will work out. We can go soft, hard, soft. So to the 25% rule that I have, soft, hard, soft is going to be the one. We're going to start them both on the softs. We're going to hope for maybe an early safety car. If there's an early safety car to take us onto hards, then mediums, the safety car window would be like 12 to 18. And then our pit will be lap 18. I've written that down in my little notebook just because there's no way to see how much tire life has done so far. And I'm a little nerd. I like writing things down. Okay, so without further ado, now that we have our strategy set, there is just one more thing to do. And that's to drive 71 laps around what in the modern day is the most boring yet most beautiful track on the F1 calendar. For us, we're going to watch those dots move around that line, and it's going to be so exciting. Let's do this. All right, we're going to go in on our drivers. As we get 5 lights in Monte Carlo, the lights are off and the race is on, and immediately, once again, we're losing positions off the start, but we have held 10th and 12th right now. Why are they conserving? That's on me. Ah! All right, and as soon as I tell them, push, Rodriguez immediately makes great use of that brand new chassis, gets themselves up into 3rd place, and I think with that, we can tell them to chill up there. Von Heim down in 12th can still chill as well, I think. We found where we are now. This is a ridiculous start. Moretti in the Ferrari is on those hards, probably going to be going for the one stop, I imagine, but 3rd position on track. You never know what could happen with a safety car. Rodriguez is asking all the questions of those top teams right now. This is the dream start from a great quali for Team Knight. And the question is, how are we doing? Because Viaba down there in 5th as well. That's another one of our competitors, of course. And so we've got to be very mindful about how they react to this situation. They are also on the softs. Moretti as well, the Ferrari, even though they're 2 compounds harder right now, there's no stopping them. They're going to overtake Rodriguez at some point. But the fact that Rodriguez was able to get to where he's been able to get to is nothing short of phenomenal. Von Heim, I see, is closing in on the people in front of him. And so I'm going to tell him to push, because Von Heim, we do want to get up here a little bit quicker if we can. Now, Von Heim's tires will start to fade out a little bit. So the fact that they're not getting closer, we're going to tell them to ease off. We'll leave the fuel burning for a little bit longer as well. But the fuel burn is, if it's anything like real life, actually going to be more useful during the hard stint to offset the lack of performance of the hard tires. So we're going to see as we come through these tight, windy hairpins that I can't pronounce that one, and the princess's hairpin. Devs. I don't know if the devs are going to watch this. I don't know if this was written in English or if it was translated. It looks like it might have been translated. In English, if you have an apostrophe at the end of a word that ends with an S, you don't generally add the next S. Some people do, but this is my little, I love the way that the God Ray has kind of highlighted it as well. The general practice in English is you leave off the last S and it looks tidier, and it still means the same thing. You can get away with this, but it's just not as commonplace. That's today's little nitpick from Kush. You're welcome. Von Heim down in 11th, Rodriguez up in 3rd for the Knight boys. That new chassis is working wonders right now. As the last lap, Rodriguez was the 3rd fastest car on track. This could be a position on pace right now, except for the McLaren and the Ferrari behind them. But they are definitely pulling away from Viaba already. Von Heim's goal is to try and get closer to Viaba. The problem is we have 4 cars between them, 3 cars between them. Good work, Von Heim. We have 3 cars between them that, yes, they're on harder compounds, but are also in faster cars. And they're 2 of the teams that I said we shouldn't be worried about. So I'd really like them to take down Viaba in terms of position as quickly as possible. Not run them off the track or anything, but just to take them out of position if possible. The window for pitting under full course yellows for us is 12 onwards, which I think would also incur pitting from the other drivers. We could pit sooner, but if a full course yellow is waved before lap 12, we're going to have a decision to make. If it's lap 12 or after, it's easy. We do it. We pit. We get onto the hards early, and then we finish on some mediums. But for now, Von Heim sitting fairly nice in P10. We're going to save some fuel for Von Heim, actually, and Rodriguez. I want to play this a bit more conservatively on the fuel. Rodriguez can surely afford it. The other question, because they're actually about 13 seconds up the road of Viaba, is could we go easy on the tires a little bit and actually extend this first stint? It is a possibility, but I don't think we're going to do it because you've got to remember our pit stops are one of the longest on the grid. So we're going to have to suffer during those pit stops. So it's good to have this little buffer that they have available. So Von Heim currently being hunted down by Maldonado as Rodriguez is being hunted down by Ryan and Moretti. But somehow Rodriguez still has the life in these soft tires, which are nothing more than elastic bands by this point, or getting there anyway. He still has the pace to match the Ferraris and the McLarens. This is extremely uplifting and promising. There goes the McLaren, but we're okay with it right now. And there goes the Ferrari. The person we're really racing is the next one, but they're 10 seconds down, and they're burning their tires a lot quicker as well. Which means we might be able to go a little bit longer and reduce the amount of time we spend on the hard tires. Because once they pit, we'll just burn through our tires and pit a lap or two later. Give ourselves an offset. We might lose out on some track position. But with that tire delta's worked so well for us in the past. Von Heim also currently losing a bit of time to the car in front, so we're just going to get him to burn a bit more fuel. Because I don't see him holding up Maldonado for the rest of the race, even though he's doing a great job right now. I would love for him to stay in the points. Rodriguez, Team Rodriguez in the comments is going to be enthusiastic to the nth degree about this. They're going to be loving life right now. Here's the situation overall. You'll see there's big gaps forming. Rodriguez having quite a lonely race again now, as he doesn't really have to think about much. Now we're in full course yellow territory. If a full course yellow is thrown now, we quit. We quit? No. We pit, no questions asked. We don't quit, no questions asked. And currently the season has had at least one full course yellow and one red flag every single season. The way it goes is the full course yellow always brings us a cheap pit stop, and then the red flag at the end threatens our position. So, I mean, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be really interesting. The fact that up front, here are your leaders, by the way, top right of your screen, the race leaders. Mack has managed to keep up with Woods on a hard tire when Woods is on a soft tire. That's insanely good. That's so well done. I mean, Von Heim now also closing in on Holgersen. We're going to tell him to push, see if he can get past Holgersen. Currently just a second and a half away. Rodriguez sitting very pretty where they are right now. Still keeping 10 seconds ahead of Viaba, but here's Rodriguez. I don't see Rodriguez closing in on Holgersen right now. So actually, we're gonna take the tire burn off at least. We'll leave you with performant engine right now and the extra fuel burn, but we're not gonna push as hard. Von Heim is in the zone. You know what? I'm gonna take the engine off as well. We're gonna lean the fuel mix a little bit. And we're just gonna see how things play out. Across the board, it's looking good for us. No one's really challenging us from our competitors. The problem that we have is that Maldonado, unless the Chapmans are not performant today around this circuit, which on pace, Maldonado's on the same compound as Von Heim, and Von Heim's keeping them behind. And overtaking is not easy here. Maybe the one stop would have been the one to go for. We may live to regret that. The ones on the hard tires may benefit if they can stay out long enough. But we'll live to see that later on. We won't get that answer for a good while at the moment. Couple laps left until we need to pit. Viaba will surely pit soon because Viaba's tires are looking even more worn than ours. Viaba is pushing a little bit on fuel as well. Still 9 seconds down though. The way Rodriguez is going to do it is Rodriguez is just going to sit there, and then the moment Viaba goes in, Rodriguez is just going to push for a lap. We've got 9 seconds. I think we can afford a single lap of Delta, and we also then get to see what tires Viaba goes on to. Von Heim, meanwhile, is just kind of chilling. Just kind of chilling at the moment. Viaba pits. Viaba pits from 6th position. Rodriguez is going to need to push and burn fuel now. Viaba's out on softs. Definitely going for the undercut then. Which means we don't want to leave it more than a lap. So Rodriguez is going to pit on our predicted 18th lap as well. This is perfect for our strategy. We're going to pit onto hards with Rodriguez. Von Heim. All right, Von Heim, burn and go one more lap. Just to try something different, you know? Just in case. You never know if there's going to be a full course yellow. Von Heim's going to go one extra lap, then also join Rodriguez onto the hards. Rodriguez is going to come out, and Rodriguez comes out still in front of Viaba. This is fantastic for Rodriguez. One lap of tire delta. Viaba's tires will burn out quicker as well, but the question is, can Viaba use that softer compound to get track position over Rodriguez? It's now or never for Viaba, really, but Rodriguez is not looking like he wants to relinquish that position. As we see just across the wall, Von Heim is about to go into the pits and does. Where's Von Heim going to come out? That's the question. Getting those hards on. We're going to zoom out to check. Is he going to come out in front of Rinaldi? Yes, just about. That is a great timing on the pit stops for the night team. Rodriguez holding on to that position. Obviously, Viaba on softer tires now. So Viaba has more pace per lap than Rodriguez will, or should do at least. But those tires will drop off quicker. That advantage is time limited, right? It's a ticking time bomb for Viaba. And with DuPont coming out ahead of them, but behind us, that could be a nail in the coffin for Viaba's chance to catch Rodriguez now. We love to see that. We absolutely love to see that. DuPont will probably overtake us at some point, but right now Rodriguez running in 8th on track. Poor net 6th maybe. Bregman's in the pits. Bregman comes out of the pits ahead of us. Maldonado is way behind, but crucially has come out in front of Von Heim. That just shows you the difference in pit stop times, unfortunately for us. But there it is. Rodriguez though, looking real good right now, being hunted down by DuPont and will likely be overtaken, but honestly, an 8th position would still be solid for us. Our full course yellow window for this stint is 47 to go on to the mediums. Lap 47 and beyond, but if one comes at 36 or beyond, we could switch on to hards, because it's going to be a 2-stop either way for us with the strategy we've gone with. I feel like Viaba's going to go on to the hards next, or do 3 stops. I can't work out what the Hemlock strategy is for today. We are pushing on fuel, of course, because this is the hard stint, but we still have a bit of fuel in leeway. Your race leader currently is Woods as they come to lap Von Heim, followed closely by Mack. So actually, Mack didn't make those tires last too much longer than Woods did. But Mack is, of course, now on fresher softs than Woods. And I think that overcut might end up playing into their hands with the tire delta. The top 4 are, of course, entirely made up of Ferrari and McLaren, Etzalini and Lebrun. And even after pitting so many laps after us, we're nowhere near them. They are a different league. They are just an entirely different league. The fuel mix in those Ferraris and McLarens needs checking. I'm not sure it's legal, but we're happy with our little 7th position right now on track. With Rodriguez, our closest competitors, so Hemlock obviously picking up a 10th, which is not that much, you know? It's not that much. And Von Heim now 8 seconds adrift from Viaba. Their other drivers completely out of it for points. And meanwhile, Pope is the other team, 14th and 17th. So right now, I mean, Bancroft with the 12th and 13th would be the ones to benefit if, say, Von Heim and Viaba went out. Touch wood, they won't. But right now, we're looking strong against our competitors in the league. We could be establishing ourselves with a 5th position. We've definitely established ourselves as a midfield team right now. We've got the pace. The pace is in this car. I'm telling you now. This race is looking fantastic for us right now. Because you remember I said we only really are targeting kind of 9th and 10th. So the fact that we're currently sitting in 7th is pretty special. It's pretty special. Von Heim as well was for a minute there, just a couple of seconds away. We're going to tell Rodriguez to pick the pace up a little bit because DuPont is now 2.2 behind. But Von Heim, just considering the chance to get Viaba, as Viaba's softs start to fade into obscurity, the life on those tires is flatlining. Those softs are not long for this world. And Viaba will be thrilled to get rid of them in the next stop. Whereas Von Heim's tires still looking great. And if there's no full course yellows before Viaba pits, it's advantage us in respect to issues potentially happening. Rodriguez seems to have ditched DuPont, so we're going to ease up on the fuel there. Von Heim, I want Von Heim to push a little bit. I want to see if we can just frustrate Viaba. Viaba might just have tires dead to the point that our fresh-ish hards, can overtake him. You never know, right? It's things like this. Viaba makes a single mistake on those worn tires. Von Heim capitalizes and suddenly Viaba's stuck behind. Because where Viaba is right now, it feels like their race might be more with Von Heim than Rodriguez, which would be fantastic for us. But it would just kind of seal the deal if Von Heim is able to catch them. Although it seems like now Viaba's pushing. Viaba is pushing ahead. They want to make sure they're getting, I think they're going to be pitting any minute now. In a few laps, probably. Von Heim, see if you can push just a little bit. See if you can stay in touch with them. 208, 1.6. Okay, yeah, no, we've got much more speed than them when we're pushing. Can we get Viaba? I mean, if they don't pit now, we overtake them just after. That'd be perfect. If we can overtake them like now, that'll frustrate them for a lap. Although that doesn't seem to be happening. Rodriguez, you need to chill out. Because you do not need to be pushing that hard. At all. Especially around here. I didn't even realize. Oh, I thought I told Von Heim and I told Rodriguez to push. That's why. Whoops. I'm making so many mistakes. I don't know how we're still doing as well as we are. Von Heim, get pushing. Now is your time. Now is your time to try and capitalize. Although, no, actually, I'm going to go against myself. I think Viaba's going to pit any lap now. I don't think overtaking them now is actually going to be worth the extra burn we're going to have on tires. Our target pit lap for this is 53. We want to hold out until lap 53 before we pit again. The way things look at the moment, we're pretty set. I've got to say. Maldonado, however, is now all over the back of DuPont, who is only a second and a bit behind Rodriguez. So this could become an interesting point to pick up on, is whether Rodriguez is going to hold on to that 7th place. Maldonado, I think, will pit. Yes, will definitely pit before DuPont and Rodriguez pit. But again, this all comes down to a full course yellow or the potential of a wet track. Rain is on the horizon and I hadn't noticed. And so now the question becomes, how far do we need to go before the rain? Viaba is going to have to pit. Viaba might have nailed this on forecast. I may have dropped the ball here, being on hards, because we're all going to have to pit around the same time anyway. So we're just going to push for as much as we can, because Maldonado and DuPont right behind Rodriguez are also going to be full pushing right now, probably. How are we looking on weather? We're not into the range of intermediates just yet. Intermediates is going to need to be about a quarter of the bar. So we're looking at probably lap 41. So 4 more laps probably. That's still enough that we can easily push on these tires. But I don't want them to go into red is the only thing. I do not want them crashing around here when we're in the positions we're in. To lose 7th and 8th to these two is better than not making it home at all. Viaba also is going to have to try and make it like 3 more laps. Von Heim could benefit greatly from this. We're going to turn up the engines because Viaba's going to get a puncture any second now if they don't pit. They've got to pit. And they're going to be pitting early for the inters as well, by at least a lap. Von Heim still can't overtake them though. How are we looking on the inters? We're not quite there. Another lap or two. Another lap or two and we'll be there. Rodriguez still ahead of DuPont and Maldonado, rather impressively. Viaba's got to duck into the pits now. And they do, right. Von Heim, it's time to push. Because we're going to try and get you onto the inters next lap, I think. No, we're going to leave it a lap. We're going to leave it until lap 40. Rinaldi's had a slow stop, apparently. A disaster for them. The question, like Viaba, how's Viaba going to do with their lap times as well? because you'd expect Viaba not to be fast when they're using inters on a dry track. The difference in the tires is that the inters and the wets progressively have more tread in their tires, which if you're used to your road cars is the difference between the surface of the tire. They're little grooves, right? And those grooves give you extra grip when it's wet, but they're not as fast for driving a sports car or an F1 car or a racing car around a track. So, oh, we're so nearly there. We're so nearly at the time to pit. All right, Von Heim, how was the last lap there? Yeah, look at that. Viaba 219 on their last lap. 208. They're still going slower. They're still going slower, which means even with our slow pit stops, we might still come out in front of them. Because look at that. They're still, but oh no, they're not going slower than us anymore. Or are they? 35.6, 36. Okay, where are we at? It's time to pit. It's time to pit Von Heim. On to the intermediates, because I don't think that water's going to get anywhere near the wet range at any point today. So it's on to intermediates. Rodriguez is going to do the same next. Now the question is, does Von Heim overcut Viaba with this switch onto the inters? It's a slow stop, but they're coming out way ahead of Viaba. 6 seconds up the road. We can ease up and rest easy on that one. Rodriguez now is going to pit. DuPont is going that extra lap. Rodriguez pits onto the inters.
1 hour later.
Another really slow stop. Comes out in 9th though. Now inters, they started on lap 40. Lap 40 would be the first lap, right? So 64 means that it's 24 laps.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
They will last to the end anyway. They'll be screaming out by the end, but they will last to the end. We don't need to do any maths right now. It's interesting that none of the people in like 6th, 7th, 8th have pitted yet. I don't know what they're expecting from this. Also, I missed a trick maybe to use our wet strategist's ability of being quicker on dry tires when it's a wet track to maybe offset against Viaba on tire delta even more. But let's be honest, Von Heim doesn't need it right now. 11 seconds the gap. And we're looking good. Rodriguez, I don't like where you're at with fuel. Conserve a bit of fuel right now. DuPont comes out in 8th ahead of Rodriguez. That slow stop for Rodriguez just killed him, I think. It's always going to happen like that. But Maldonado, yeah, I mean, Maldonado will probably also come out in front, unfortunately. But hey, it's fine as it is, right? It's fine as it is. We're going to... How's that fuel looking? I'm a little concerned about that fuel gauge on Rodriguez. I'm going to just leave him going easy on the fuel for now. We're just going to bring this home. All right, that is the game plan right now. We bring this home in another 9th and 10th, but this time with the positions reversed. So the aim is that we bring it home, and that's it. We don't want to risk anything. We don't want to do anything silly. We can, in fact, go easy on the tires for Rodriguez. In fact, no, Rodriguez, stay up there for a minute. It's Von Heim that I'm worried about the fuel on as well. Why do I keep thinking Rodriguez is on the top? Von Heim is maybe okay now on the fuel. Yeah, there's enough fuel to get to the end now. All right. So Maldonado's still to pit. Also, people are choosing full wets. Oh, there will be a full wet. But the full wet territory is only like 3 laps. I don't feel like full wet is the play. I also don't think what Maldonado's doing is the right play, but I mean, apparently they're still pulling out 2 minute and 2, which is just insane. Is that what the wet strategist does? Because if so, I should have stayed out. I should have stayed out on the hards. My God. Viaba is around the 2 second mark right now. So we're just going to have to look. We need to lap Rosenqvist. Rosenqvist needs to get out of the way. We need blue flags. We need blue flags. Come on. Where's the blue flags? Get them out. Thank you. There we go. We can't be being held up like that. Viaba's now going a little bit slower. So we're gonna ease up for Von Heim. Viaba also, of course, because we pitted two laps later, our tires are now 2 laps fresher than Viaba's. So we have that advantage. That's what we call a tire delta. Because it's the difference in performance and life of our tires versus theirs. But this is going to be a drive like it's going to be a situation where it's driving for Rodriguez, at least, like there's an egg underneath your gas pedal. You do not want to be wheel spinning in this weather. We're telling Rodriguez just to go easy, take things slow. If Von Heim gets within like 5 seconds, we'll tell Rodriguez to pick it up again. Because Von Heim right now, with only 3 seconds back to Viaba, can't really afford to go too easy on the car. We are currently as well in the situation like we had last race, where the car ahead of us, both of our drivers in 8th, Maldonado this time instead of DuPont, is ahead of the race leader, but we are not in terms of being lapped. So if, as I said in the last video, the same would happen here, right? If a red flag was thrown now or toward the end like it usually is in our races, then it would be one lap. There would be a 1 lap difference between us and Maldonado, because this Ferrari here would stop at the line. When we come round, we'd stop, but over here, Maldonado would still get to complete their next lap. And lapped cars don't get to unlap themselves in this game, which I don't know if that's how it worked in the 70s. I imagine it probably was. I think unlapping lapped cars was probably a much more recent directive or initiative. But we are looking good. The question is now, is it wet territory? Because it kind of is. So this is now the question of if the wet territory's here. I mean, it's until lap 63. So I guess what we need to do is, if Viaba pits, Von Heim responds. Viaba does not pit. A bang-up job. Von Heim is now within 10 seconds, though, so we're going to tell Rodriguez, you don't have to manage anymore. Just keep going. Again, Von Heim, I can't really afford to tell him to ease up, because Viaba is right there, trying to spoil our fun and ruin our day by taking our last points position off us. And of course, if that happens, Rodriguez will overtake Von Heim in the standings on points. If they're level, in real life, what it would go by is who has the highest finishing position. So who's finished highest out of them. Now, obviously, aside from the points, because they would be equal. So it would be outside of that, like, or even including it in some cases. What's the highest position you finished? And then the second highest, third highest, etc. I think in the first race, Von Heim got Rodriguez about 5 laps from the end. And so if they finish as they stand now, that would be what separates Von Heim and Rodriguez in the championship, and Von Heim would lead. And that's how close things are right now. I am nail biting right now with Viaba only a second behind, but Viaba, I think, just made a mistake there. They're now 3.5 seconds down. And Rodriguez is in the zone, which we love to hear. Nobody on the wets is catching us up too much, but you see the wets now are about 4 seconds faster a lap. So thankfully this doesn't last for too much longer, the wet period. But Von Heim is now going to be asking the question, how long can Viaba survive on these tires? Because Viaba's tires must be just screaming right now while trying to catch Von Heim, because we pitted later and we're going to have 3 laps of fuel. Sorry, 3 laps of tire life left at the end of this Grand Prix if we keep going like we're going. So Viaba will be on the carcass. Listen, it'll be chicken off the bone, right? You'll be like 1 bite too strong and you're going to choke. So it's... This is going to be nail biting for the Hemlock team principal as much as it is for me right now. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. Where's the closest battle on track right now? The closest battle on track is for 14th place, and it's Steiner being chased down by Acosta, although that's now kind of gone. So still, Von Heim and Viaba, the times are fluctuating quite wildly here in the wet conditions, because sometimes these cars are just very difficult to keep pointing forwards when the track is as wet as it is. And they're never going to, well, at least for the rest of this race, they're not going to experience another dry lap. Now, it's not actively raining right now, but there will be no lap during this race when the track is purely dry. Viaba is burning fuel now to try and get to Von Heim. I'm confident Von Heim will be able to hold them off based on their tire delta. Rodriguez doing their now once per race complaint about the condition of their car. Rodriguez, You are 10 seconds up the road from Von Heim with 10 seconds to go. A pit stop, if you include the time driving up and down the pit lane, takes 35 to 40 seconds. If I were to fix that problem now, and that's with additional time for fixing the parts, you would be 12th, mate. Von Heim would overtake you, Viaba would overtake you, Rinaldi would overtake you. There's no way those parts are gonna cost you 30 seconds. There's no way. I know you're concerned, but you've got acres of space out there, lad. Don't worry about it. Of course, now cut to the end of the race where it's like, and Rodriguez has failed. This car is broken. So Viaba has dropped away a little bit. And in fact, Rosenqvist has overtaken them, has unlapped themselves. And I think this is because we're still technically in wet territory, which only will last for another lap or two. That could end up being what the difference is, by the way, in whether Viaba is able to challenge Von Heim or not. So I'm going to give Von Heim a little bit more leeway on fuel, just for a lap or two, just to make sure we don't end up running out of fuel. Rosenqvist is still burning at a normal pace, but this will soon become inter-level. Rosenqvist, of course, is on fresh wets. And now we will tell Von Heim to come back normal on the fuel, because Von Heim's fuel is going to be touch and go, but we are still currently holding off, as now Viaba overtakes Rosenqvist again on the old inters, meaning that the track is returning to inter status, and it is indeed. It's on the cusp. This is what we'd call in F1 the crossover period between a wet track and an inter track. There would be another one between inters and dries, but we're not going to live to see that in this race. The top four then, the McLarens and the Ferraris still are showing why they're just a cut above everybody else. They are a lap now ahead of everybody except themselves. Even Moretti in fourth has lapped Bregman in fifth. It's crazy. It is crazy. I don't know what else to say, to be honest. Fifth and sixth have also lapped us in ninth and 10th. Seventh and eighth are definitely making their way round to do so, and if they had more laps in the race, they'd probably be able to. So again, we're not trying to challenge these top four teams. We just want to be best of the rest, or best of the rest of the rest. Because best of the rest will be the Wayland Chapman fight. Best of the rest is us versus the rest of the field. And currently, other than Viaba being a second away from Von Heim still, which is really giving me stress, we're there. We're 100% a midfield team right now, and I love it. I absolutely love it. We have no sponsor challenges for this weekend, at least not that I'm aware of. So that's good. Yeah, Von Heim, I mean, Viaba now is still just 3 seconds, but they're surely going to drop away, because we're at that point now where the tires are just, it's got to be screaming. As they drive past, all you can hear is, ah! Rodriguez, meanwhile, has, in the other Knight Hemlock combination, has just lapped the other Hemlock, which is looking bad for Hustler right now, because if Viaba comes around and laps them, being lapped by your own teammate should never really happen, because if you're in more or less the same car, save a couple of performance increases, you shouldn't be a whole lap behind by the end of the race. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if the performance of the car is equal, you shouldn't be that far behind. So there's going to be questions asked at Hemlock today. That's for sure. But the Knight boys, with 2 laps to go at the end of this lap, are looking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. In fact, it might just be, no, it'd be 3 laps at the end of this lap, sorry, but it might turn into 2 if Max Verstappen can get past Rodriguez. I think it'll already be 2 for Von Heim. And with DuPont lapping Viaba, that could be the nail in the coffin for their chance at any sort of 10th position. Rodriguez going to bring home what has been a quite lonely but very comfortable 9th position. Obviously, we were up in 6th, 7th early on, and there was a period of time when he was technically running in the podium positions. But we knew that wasn't going to happen. We never expected it to happen. And the thing is, we're now best of the rest of the rest. I think we are solidly best of the rest of the rest. I really do. And that's huge for us. 1 race to get used to the car, And then the last 2 weekends, this will be consistently 3 points at a time. Mack comes home to take another win and move up, but Rodriguez in 9th will be happy as they all file in. Von Heim does manage to hold off Fiabe in the Hemlock to bring home the second consecutive double points finish of the season for Knight. And Brendan Like and Corey Subscribe popping the cork on the champagne again. We were very hungover the day after the last celebration. So I hope we don't go as hard this time because we've got work to do to try and now bridge that gap between us and Chapman/Wayland. I don't quite know when that we're going to do that because their fastest lap was a good 1.5 seconds. Almost 2 seconds quicker than us. Wow. Also, can we just give a bit of a shout out for Albert Steiner pulling off the 1 stop in Monaco? Clearly it wasn't the strategy, but you've always got to consider it. And you've got to applaud Bancroft for trying that strategy, being that they were, you know, a full course yellow. That 1 stop is cheap. Track position is everything around here, as Von Heim showed today. And Rodriguez showed it towards the beginning. But another 9th and a 10th, another double points position. I'm happy with that, happy with the boys. It's another all Ezzolini and LeBron podium. And I think, as I said at the beginning, and as I've been saying throughout, you're going to see a lot more of those. But now, after another 5th position on track in terms of team scoring, do we move up in the championship? That is the question. We earned $6 from today, which is great. In the Drivers' Championship, they're 10th and 11th. They're 10th and 11th. They're ahead of Schaub. Both of them sitting on 3 points. Again, it's just going to be looking at 9th. 9th in the Drivers' Championship is probably going to be both Carlos and Artie's targets for this season, as everyone else is running away with it. Moretti has got up to 4th, but with Mack winning, that's all they can do for now. But they are still 6. They're only 6 points adrift from Ryan. I mean, ruling out DNFs, I don't think we're going to see any other drivers in the top 4 other than these 4 now. I think that's the rest of the season. But if we can finish the season in 9th and 10th, that'll be a huge platform to jump off for season 2. Would be then chasing the lead pack. And we don't quite take 5th. We are 6th, but now only on countback because both Pope and Knight have 6 points between them. Incredible scenes from Knight today. Another double points finish. We will have a sponsor challenge for next week. Consider giving the video a like and a subscribe. It honors Brendan Like and Corey Subscribe and their new headquarters in Memphis, Tennessee. If you've liked the content, please do tell me in the comments as well. And the moment that the next episode's up, it will be linked in a card at the top right. I'll put a different video there in the meantime so that you've got something cool to watch anyway. And I will see you over there. Cush out.